Start, please. So, hello. Yeah, first of all, congrats on the 30th anniversary. Well deserved. Looking for the next 30. And yeah, thanks for having us here. And I hope that all of you got the time for the coffee, for the loo, and the comfort break. So yeah, as said, we got this around about half an hour, I think. Okay, I'll run through as always. Sony loves PowerPoint Excels, but I keep it short. As said, my name is Sebastian. I'm the responsible product manager for Venice, high-end cine, workflow, everything which belongs to this, and including virtual production, because it's getting or it's not getting, or it's one of the hottest topics, I would say. And I already enjoyed the last 1.5 days here to speak to a lot of you. Thanks for all the inspirational discussions, sharing already feedback, using our tools. And this is what we are really proud of course, because when we develop the tools, we develop them by us, but for you. And it's really great to see what have been shot on the Venice during the last years, and it's getting more and more and more. And it's not only on OTT stuff, commercials, documentaries, but it's also quite nice for us to see that it's, of course, also respected in the box office sales when it gets really important movies like last year the Top Gun, where Claudio did crazy things, I would say, to put as many cameras in a Firejet as he can do. Avatar with where they went into 3D again. And what is also quite nice is that also, James Friend, who just got the Oscar this year, he also shoot Venice for all the low light and all the night shots. So which is also for us quite good to see, because this proves that also the sensor design and also the development in this case is what you are looking for when you're shooting these kind of scenes. But as said, this is all shot on the Venice 1, or the original Venice as we call it. And I just would like to give you a brief intro. Hello. Siri. About the Venice 2, because the Venice 2 was introduced last year. So shipping it since last year. I'm not sure how many had the chance to test it, to take a look on this. And for the Venice 2, as said, we wanted to evolve the Venice 1 or the original Venice, but we don't want to change it completely, because this was also feedback I got yesterday during the dinner while we had these 2,500 courses. Where it was said, hey, Sebastian, it's important to have consistency, because we don't want to learn every single time a new camera. We don't have the time for this, even not our assistants, and we want to have the consistency. So please improve the products for sure, and this is why we are here. But don't make a 180 degree. And the Venice 2 is exactly this. So what we have done, based on the feedback, so we still keep the full frame sensor. We developed a completely new one because it's time generation-wise to look forward. But we also said, okay, let's keep the things everyone loves at the original one, like the dual base ISO, so to have really all the flexibility in being able to shoot in daylight, in low light conditions, but even more, make the camera smaller and keep on the recording formats which we are only looking for. It is RAW or it is ProRes, as easy as it is. And this is what we also put in place. So everything is now internally recorded, and there are a bunch of other stuff, like the ND filter system, which we kept going. And while talking also to the operators and to the ACs, we also improved the usability of the camera overall. So this is, as we said, the evolution, and keeping all the feedback into this, and to make it, still the most flexible camera for the cinematography so far. And one reason why we still stick on the full frame is because, first of all, it's about the lenses. So I think you agree, you will make the lens choice, and you want to go spherical, anamorphic, you want to Super 35 and full frame. And we want to support this, even if it's the newest lens, even if it's the oldest lens. And due to that, for us, it's only one direction to go full frame, because with this, you have the choice. And with this new sensor, we have been able to increase the latitude. We have been able to, on the same size, to make it more sensitive, but to keep also improvements in the roll-offs, in the highlights, and also to give you the highest picture quality you are looking for. And this is the reason why, for us, it's still the thing, okay, let's keep the flexibility with this new full-frame sensor, and even more when it comes to the colors. And Daniela, this is something then for you in the next talk, looking at this little box of the photon path, that we are, of course, also very much addicted to the colors we are recording. And here, of course, we are very proud that the colors in the Sony sensors are very, very outstanding, and that no matter if you're looking on the original or on the Venice 2, you have the full color consistency, and of course, due to that, you can mix them up, or you have still the possibility to have ordinary colors and the color reproduction in the post-production process afterwards. As said, one of the things which was very, very beneficial when it comes to the original Venice is this dual base ISO, so that you can really switch between two values. And due to the fact, while the engineers have designed the new sensor, they have been able to say, okay, let's increase the sensitivity. So that means now you will have your 800 base or the 3200 base. But as you can see, now we are talking about 16 stops dynamic range, which is at the base of 10 in the shadows and plus 6 in the highlights. And no matter if you shoot low or high base, you always have the same. And this is very beneficial depending what you're going to shoot. So first point for the flexibility, and then where it gets even more flexible, and this is where we increased it just 4 or 6 weeks ago with an update that we said, okay, again, no matter if you're shooting anamorphic, spherical, full frame, Super 35, just choose it in the menu. And as you can see, you have all the flavors from the anamorphic, from the scope, from 16 or 17:9, and even the frame rates we have increased quite drastically with this update, so that you can go up to 120 frames per second if you want, and if you want to need this for your high-speed shots. And this is also then the possibility to reduce data rate, because whatever you do, cropping into the sensor means you are recording less data, which is then, of course, the benefit also for the post-production. A lot of productions I have seen so far have, of course, still shot on the Super 35 mode, but also a mixture is pretty common, so that DOPs have decided, okay, for certain shots I go full frame, for certain shots I go Super 35, but I always have my camera and I don't need to switch cameras, because I can cover both with the Venice or the Venice 2 right now. And to make it even more flexible, we said, okay, let's keep our promise with the interchangeable sensor. So as you might have seen, or perhaps already used it, the Venice 1 had the chance to use the Rialto with the sensor takeout, or where we have been able to remove the sensor. And now we are even able to go with the Venice 2 body with both sensors. So already we have productions where they said, okay, I want to benefit of the smaller body, but I don't care about the new sensor. I want to go with the original one. So, and they used the original sensor in the Venice 2 body. So it's really completely swappable within a couple of minutes. And this is then giving you more choice of, more freedom of choice, whatever you want to do. And to finish up with the flexibility, here we are with the lens. So I don't know how many different adapters are available already in the world, but you should be able to put every lens on the Venice or the Venice 2. We are supporting a standard PL mount. Underneath, we have the Sony E mount, but there are adapters from Panavision for the PV. There are adapters for lights for M lenses, and certainly there have been announcements for signatures as well, so LPL. So now everything is supported, including the metadata, and that means, take the oldest, take the newest lens, and feel free to shoot it on the Venice or the Venice 2. And not only the flexibility, but I think also when it comes on shooting time and what you can save is the internal ND filter system. And here I need to say, yeah, thank you for Rob McLachlan, where loaned this from his Instagram account, and he said he shot really a long time for his last series, and the full set of this built-in ND filter set estimated saved at least 10 to 15 minutes per day over the full shoot. And then you can make a simple math, what does it mean for the total production? And for me, I experienced this myself when during a camera test, and we made the test, and then the DOP said, okay, let's now change ND filter to 0.6, for example, and then his assistant went to the filter box, started to clean it, and I said, no, we are ready, we can go. I just flipped it in, and this was really something which was new, but everyone is used to it these days and saying, well, I don't want to go with this anymore or without this anymore. Looking on the data rates and looking a little bit on the recording formats, as said, everything is now inside. Either it's a 16-bit XOCN, as we call it, or it's the 4K ProRes 444, including XQ. But just to keep it a little bit simple, I just put out the Super 35 and the full frame as in a comparison, because I know that also you might have sometimes discussions that producers and your counterparts are saying, I want to go with ProRes because it's my habit, I know this, XOCN or RAW is way too heavy, we cannot handle this, too much data. But as you can see, especially when it comes to Super 35, you can even have more recording time using an XOCN versus a ProRes 4x4, because of ProRes 4x4 is always sticked to the data rate. And so in this case, a 12-bit versus 16-bit is not a discussion point anymore. And this, I think, is quite important for you, also for your discussions you have, that it could not be, or it would not be to have the ProRes recording all the time, because in certain times, also going with an XOCN, it's very beneficial. It's also on the creative perspective. Reality 2, just to take a look on this one, we have it outside. So outside we have set up the camera with the Reality 2. We attached it with a 3-meter cable, but as you can see on the page itself, this is the 12-meter version. So also here, based on feedback, we got a lot of feedback to say, okay, hey, we want to get it longer, we want to keep it more flexible, we want to get rid of this little repeater box inside. And now with the Reality 2, you can go up to 12 meter. And of course, you can also use it with the VENICE 1 because it's completely fully backwards compatible. And even more, because we know that there have been questions about more buttons, that you want to change your ND filter yourself while operating handheld. This is now possible. And for everyone who is then in the VFX, all the gyro data will also be recorded. So here, another tool which we developed in cooperation with you and your feedback to increase the flexibility and the usage and reduce the size. And for us, it's always good to see and great to see how the Rialto will be used. For sure, as I said, Top Gun is a very special one, but for us it's really nice to see in which conditions where it has been used, and because the benefit is the body is small and you can still stick to your lens you wanted to do, and otherwise might have been changed. Just 2 slides at the back of today's presentation. I mentioned this already, virtual production. Virtual production, I think we could talk another hour, 2 hours. We can make a complete masterclass workshop around this one. However, for this one, it's seeing is believing, experience is believing, and Sony is not only doing the cameras as we just talked about, but also we are doing the LED screens, particularly developed for virtual production. We have colleagues from different departments talking and developing solutions to make virtual production even more accessible. And I'm happy to share with you these 2 locations in Europe. So Plateau Virtuel in Paris is a studio who just recently relaunched the studio and is using a 90 square meter LED screen from Sony with a 1.5 pixel pitch. And on the right-hand side, this is our own training center in Pinewood Studios in UK, which we invite everyone to come over to test cameras, to test also the other cameras from Sony. And here we will also have a small virtual production studio. And as I said, more than happy to either bring you to Plateau Virtuel to see it in a big screen because it's 18 by 5 meter, or to have in-depth discussion in the smaller one. For everyone outside Europe, we have also a DMPC center in Los Angeles. They are also setting up a virtual production stage right now, but also in Japan, this is also there. And for virtual production, as said, for me, it's so great to see also the reactions of the creatives, because you are then able to use things you have been limited in green screen. So with glass transparent items, it's really great that the creativity is getting back into your hands, and you are not limited because green screen is not giving you these possibilities. On the other hand, as we are all aware, we need to take care about the planet Earth. And this is just a report Sony Pictures have done, where they really said, okay, how much does it affect the carbon footprint if we shoot in a virtual production stage? And they made 2 scenarios, and it's really worth to read it through. And I was at the HDM Stuttgart 2 weeks ago, where also someone talked about 1899, so this big Netflix show, and they said when they would have shot this in green, it would have been 20% more higher cost compared in virtual production. However, of course, virtual production, you need to have a good preparation, and you need to have also good interaction between the art department, the virtual art department. But all of this is also something we are looking in, and this is the reason why we have also defined virtual production teams in US, in Europe, but also in Japan. Last but not least, I think it's always useful to find important tools from Sony, sometimes not easy to find. Sorry for that. Menu simulator. Also for the ACs, quite important if they don't have the camera or the hand on the camera, to check it out. We are working on the XOCN test files so that everyone is really able to get 8K files, 6K files in ProRes, in RAW, to test it through. We went to Copenhagen, so there are nice images. File size calculator, also quite important, because then you can prove, okay, if we have this show, how many cars do you need and how many gigabytes or terabytes you are producing. And because lookup tables is something also Daniel is talking about, we have partnered with different colorists, and also providing these lookup table for downloads, and then for reviewing our raw viewer, and also the virtual production hub page with all the information about virtual production from Sony, about the different tools we are providing. And last but not least, this is the reason why we are here. We want to stay in contact with you. We want to be with you. We want to discuss with you. On the one hand, Florence, so she's my colleague doing all the marketing communication. So when you have nice stories shot on Venice, shot on other cameras from Sony, please get in contact with her. We want to promote this. If you want to do any event in your region with your association, that's also her. If you want to discuss technical things, complaints, maybe improvements, I would call it, on the Sony cameras, please get back to me. And as said, we are more than happy also to invite you to DMPCE, as said, making events. Also education for us quite important. Florence is doing a lot with the female cinematographers. And that's it for me. Daniele, yours. Oh, questions. Of course. Advantage is that the Venice 1 sensor in full frame has a lower resolution, means less data, and you can run it in a little bit higher speed. So in full frame with the Venice 1 sensor, you can go up to 60 frames, while with the Venice 2, it's only 30 frames. So far, it was really the speed which drove the DOPs to the Venice 1 sensor and the data rate as well.
If you put the Venice 1 at like 4,500, but then set it to like 2,000,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it looks very filmic. It feels like you're shooting film in many ways. Does the Venice 2 have that same quality, or is it going to be a different one?
For me, and I don't want to put the Venice 1 sensor in a bad situation, for me, the Venice 2 sensor is even better. It's even better. But you need to test it yourself. It's still very. Everyone is saying who's tested it. It's very filmic, but it's still a little bit ahead of the original sensor, because one thing is as said, the roll-offs and the highlights, which have been massively improved.
Because at 800, the Venice 1, I don't think it's filmic.
Hmm? Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you please go to the slide that shows the double ISO?
The what?
The double ISO? Okay. No, the next one. This one, yes. Okay, now, something that makes me wonder. Over here you have 800 ISO with a latitude of +6, -10. Okay. At 400 ISO, you should have +5, -11, but you display that at 320. The same implies to 200 and 160. Normally, according to reciprocity law, it should +4, -12 should be at 200 ISO. This does not happen here. This one is correct. So I wonder, would this be a typo, or does it imply a reciprocity law failure?
This is I would need to check, but it could be a typo. I think it's a typo. I can get back to you when I have the proof of that. Any more questions? Or anyone have found any other typos? Otherwise, yes. As I said, we are here. The Venice and the Rialto is outside. Please really get in contact with us, and Daniele needs 10 seconds.
You are missing the 500 ISO one.
Yeah.
Between 400 and 500.
That's correct.
Mike, yeah. Good catch.
So thank you very much, Sebastian, and thank you, Sony. Thank you, Florence. Great presentation.